Hi, and welcome back to Wake Up with Natalie Rose, the channel that helps you think less about food in your body and more about truly living. In this episode, I'm talking with Marcus Kain Murray, who is an eating disorder-informed nutrition and strength and conditioning coach with certifications in stress management and couples counseling. His podcast, Strong Not Starving, was born from his own experiences navigating body image struggles and disordered eating in the fitness industry. To be honest, what I love most about talking with Marcus is that he's willing to talk about the vulnerable stuff, the feelings, the anxieties, our inner child. In this episode, we really get into the authentic struggles that both men and women experience in this area of body image. We talk about why constantly trying to control everything, including the size and shape of your body, is often just a way to manage how you're feeling on the inside, and why the perfect body will never magically fix your life or your well-being. We talk about why the obsession with food, fitness, and appearance almost always points to deeper issues around self-worth, emotion regulation, and unresolved inner child wounds. And we break down what actually works: emotion regulation through life's challenges, healing through relationships, and doing the inner work that helps you stop living in urgency and start feeling steady and whole. This is about learning how to meet yourself where you are and finally stop letting your body or thoughts about your body run your life. And if I sound nasally, it is because I am perpetually sick and stuffed up from my son being in daycare. And this is actually what we were talking about at the start of the episode, where we kind of jump into that conversation. I was talking about how much of an emotional roller coaster it has been letting go of control, allowing my baby to be taken care of by others, and how I'm navigating that messy middle. So let's dive right into that conversation, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
When you said that it was the first day of daycare, that's a challenging day for parents, often more than the kids.
Yeah, that's what the supervisor was telling us, because we just kept asking, but wait, what about his feeding schedule? And what about his naps? He's a hard time going down and he only sleeps on his stomach and he only eats this and that. And so they were like, don't worry, we've been doing this for a while. We got this. They said it would be more tough for us. But yeah, I just keep telling myself it's like any kind of adjustment period. Anything that is worth doing is going to be difficult at first. It's, an adjustment for him and for us. But, there's going to be a day where he's going to be so happy to run into daycare that he's going to forget us and just, okay, bye, mom.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth when you say anything worth doing is difficult? There's going to be an adjustment period. I don't know if truer words have ever been spoken. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that was something I wanted to chat with you about today is I saw a post that you had shared about high stress and how, a lot of the times we kind of go towards looking for a new meal plan or looking for, maybe a way to change our body or to up our fitness or to optimize something, when really beneath the surface are things like our mental health, work-life balance, financial pressure, anxiety, isolation, lack of purpose, job insecurity, loneliness, fear, failure. All these things are actually the things that we want to focus on, because those are what could be causing us, hiccups in our eating patterns or obsession over food and body. And so I'd love to dive deeper with you on that journey of how you think of high stress and how to actually tackle that over getting kind of lost in what's the term for it? Sometimes we like to chase a new shiny object, which could be a new way to fix our body, because it just feels like something new and exciting and that we can take control over, when underneath the surface things, might feel unclear or overwhelming.
Yes. For context, I have such a history with anxiety and trying to control things that even my friends noticed when I was a teenager. One of my memories of my group of friends when I was about 18, 19 was a buddy saying to me, hey, dude, worrying is like a rocking chair. It'll give you something to do, but you're not going to get anywhere. Because I was constantly trying to control everything around me, to change things, and primarily change the size and shape of my body to manage how I was feeling on the inside. I was definitely someone who was overestimating the degree to which having a specific body type or looking a specific way was going to impact my life, open doors for me, etc., etc. But, 15, 20 years later, after a really long career in the fitness industry and nutrition and all of that, my kind of core message for most of the people I work with is like the reality of healthy food and great training. Like if you're into the gym, and like I've got a soft spot for strength and conditioning. It's a bit of a hobby of mine. I'm interested in it and I do a lot of it. I didn't always love it. I had a very troubled relationship with exercise for a long time, but I've kind of come through that and have developed a much better understanding of sports science and strength and conditioning. And now it's very rewarding. All of that stuff, it's actually really boring. Mm-hmm. Like it's really boring, and it's really simple. And we're often overcomplicating it because changing something with an exercise program or a diet or any of that stuff feels somewhat more tangible than addressing the fact that, you know what, I'm actually feeling really unfulfilled and this is not where I thought I'd be at this time of my life, and I'm not sure about my marriage, or I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where the world is going, and I have financial stress and I'm not sleeping well, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So much easier to go, hey, you know what's going to give me a sense of accomplishment and calm and control right now is if I find the exact right diet and exercise program. And what I tell people a lot with the training programs and, even the nutrition advice that I give is like, I'll give you that for free. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I can give you that in an A4 sized PDF. That is not valuable. What is important is how are we dealing with life around all that kind of stuff, and how are we navigating stress? Like, how are we navigating emotion? How are we navigating stress? And are we maybe trying to manage our stress by trying to flick switches that aren't actually going to have a meaningful impact, if that makes sense?
Totally. So it's kind of like people come to you thinking they have an issue with food or their body or fitness or nutrition. And you're really like, well, actually, let's look at everything around that's happening, that's causing you to either have difficulties with food in your body or to be seeking relief in this area.
100%. A really common one that I see is people might come to me and say, I'm really struggling with food. I'm really struggling to, move my body in a way that serves me. Like I'm doing things that are making me not feel good. And I just want to know the right thing to do with those things so that I can do them. I'm like, well, is knowing the exact right thing to do with that stuff really the obstacle? Or is it the fact that you're feeling really lost and troubled in your marriage and you're not sleeping well every night? Sleep quality and relational well-being, those two things I see come up so often and get in the way. They take up so much energy, and I'll encourage people as best I can. Like, let's look at that. Let's have a little conversation about that. We can still talk about food and exercise if you want, but I can promise you that stuff's really simple. Let's talk about the actual.
It's very similar with the clients I work with as well. It's like there's these deeper relational issues, right? It's like the reason why, we're so eager to get food right is because if we don't, then our body might change. And if our body might change, we either feel like we don't have much to offer, or that's the one thing that we've been able to control when we've felt anxious socially. Yeah. We don't know how to communicate our needs. So when we were, a certain way, maybe it was easier to just kind of be small and like not take up as much space and not have to express ourselves. So yeah, I'm seeing those consistencies, in our work with each of our clients.
Relational challenges are so significant. And I can put my hand up and say, for the longest time, I was trying to use looking a particular way as a kind of proxy for relational skills and being able to emotionally regulate through the challenges of healthy relationships. Like, even the healthiest of relationships is going to be emotionally challenging sometimes. And I had a lot of issues understanding and accepting that for the longest time. I was always trying to make everything calm, make everything, low key. No one feel any big feelings, okay? It makes me uncomfortable. And you can imagine like how that went in my relationships. It obviously didn't go well. So, and then in social situations, I was trying to, I felt really lost socially and really confused in social situations, my entire childhood, all through my teenage years. Like I wasn't a naturally social person. So this message of, if you just show up looking a certain way, you don't need social skills. Because everyone will just accept you and love you and praise you and whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's a message I can get behind. I can cool, I can do that. But obviously that didn't work. I was just the awkward guy who was in the gym a lot.
I can relate so well. It's like you just feel like, okay, if you look perfect or like you're labeled as, pretty or attractive or whatever it is, people will just like you, or like, you'll get a boyfriend, or you won't be alone, I guess.
Yes.
But you feel so alone because it's like, that only gets you so far. You really need to be able to show up and connect, because we don't connect through how we look. Like we connect through conversation and laughter and shared values. And that's so hard when like your way to manage anxiety is just through perfecting your appearance. It just, like you said, it only takes you so far. And then once you're confronted with like having to actually be seen and you don't know how to show up or what to say, it's like so anxiety provoking. It fuels the anxiety.
What was it? I'm so curious, if you don't mind me asking, what was it for you that changed that? It sounds like you similar experience of managing appearance as a way to navigate social situations, relationships, and correct me if I'm off the mark here, but overestimating how much that will do for us. What was it that made you kind of realize like, wait, this isn't working?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was towards my mid 20s, because I had sort of like an up and down journey with food. Like, had started dieting, had lost a bunch of weight in high school, then got this like praise and validation for being thin. I was labeled like little one, and got my first boyfriend. So that really secured this belief that, okay, I just have to be small and then everyone will think I'm cute and like I'll be in the crowd. And then that relationship, which was basically my first love, when you fall so hard and then you are just like shattered when, it doesn't work out, that might have been a clue that like looks aren't everything, that you could still be mistreated, even if people say that you're pretty or small or whatever it is. But that wasn't, I didn't clue into it then. That at that point, I was just like, I need to be small. I need to be small. So when the dieting led to binge eating and I was gaining weight, I just kept thinking, I have to get back to how I was when I was 16. I have to get back to that weight. And so I battled with that diet binge cycle for years. In university, I again was struggling more with binge eating and just completely isolated myself again. Just, I need to lose weight and then I can go out and make friends. And then when I did end up losing weight again and sort of healing my relationship, no, not healing my relationship with food, sorry, shifting from binge eating and restricting to more of like the orthorexia, like I think that we've talked about before.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How common is that transition? Yeah.
Exactly. So I was in that cycle and then I lost weight again. I always use the word happy with how I look loosely, because when you are happy with how you look, but also you're so deeply insecure, like you're afraid of it changing and you're just constantly looking for more and more ways to perfect your body. So I was in that stage and I had, really fallen for someone at that time and it was rejected by them basically. Like it was not happening and it was a one-sided relationship. And that to me, the amount of obsession, not just around my body, but around that relationship, like woke me up. I was like, this level of obsession is not normal. Why am I feeling so obsessed? And it was through that experience that I learned that whatever it is you are obsessing about, whether it is food, your body, or another person who is rejecting you, that points to a self-worth issue.
Yeah.
I knew in that moment that this wasn't about him and it wasn't about my body. It was about me not feeling like I was enough, and that rejection blowing that up in my face. And so I knew that I had to dig deeper and I had to find a way to feel good about myself, because one, achieving the dream body didn't guarantee that I would be loved. And two, I knew now that like this was just making everything so clear that I did not feel worthy, which sounds vague, but that's the only way I can really describe it. Like I didn't feel good enough. If I were good enough, then the way he was treating me wouldn't have been so led to obsession. It would lead to me saying, oh, this person's not for me, but it wasn't. So that was like the big awakening for me.
I love what you said about obsession there, that it's like a sign of something. I'd always say that obsession and urgency are two of these giant red flags that it's like, they're so convincing. And the internal narratives around obsession and urgency can be so compelling, and they can really hijack you. And there's a lot of conviction in them. But really, it's just that they're the biggest possible signs, or a couple of the biggest possible signs, to just like wait, like pause for a second, take a breath, like just wait. I know you don't want to, but pause, take a breath. Oh.
Yeah, the obsession almost makes you feel like this is good for me. Like I should keep pursuing this, because otherwise, why would I be so obsessed with it? Or the urgency, like this needs to happen now. It's like it all really stems from this lack of safety. Like you don't feel safe without this thing, or this thing has sort of taught you that there is like a hole to be filled, and it's just, you don't know how else to fill that hole or like to deal with that sense of urgency. So you just keep pursuing the same thing that's on your mind. So I think that's like, it just really mimics like the food obsession, the body obsession, the person, like it's all the same.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to what you said about it being so relational. I think we heal through safe relationships too. So
yes.
I guess to your original question of like what led to me to change or like to address that anxiety of me, or how did I deal with that? I ended up finding a safe relationship. When I had that moment of clarity of like, okay, this is a self-worth issue, like I need to change something, I thought about a male friend that I had in my life who actually had passed away around that time. And so I thought about him and how he treated me. And I said to myself, I will not ever let another man treat me the way that person did who it didn't work out with. And I will only accept the level of treatment that I got from my friend. And so it was like raising this bar, setting a standard of how I would allow myself to be treated, even though I didn't just magically feel worthy then. Like I didn't just wake up one day and say, I am worthy. I had to set the bar and start only allowing that ideal kind of treatment in before over time I could start to feel worthy. But I knew what had to change first was how I was being treated, allowing myself to be treated. And so I met my now husband, and he surpassed that bar, let's just say. And,
excellent.
My relationship with him has actually, I've been with him throughout most of my healing journey. So like this relationship, not saying that it's perfect at all, but has been sort of a catalyst in me healing relationally, and then also healing my relationship with food in my body. And that's really just through learning how to communicate my feelings with him. So once I was healing my relationship with food and my body was changing, that led to like a whole other thing, right? That it's so difficult to see my body change and then have those core beliefs come up of like, well, he's not going to love me now because I have to be, perfect and thin for him to love me. And so working through those fears with him was something that helped me. You can never really know how another person thinks of you or feels about you, but it sort of taught me how to trust that I would be okay regardless, however he responded to my changes in weight. It led me to trust that I could have someone to support me and be with me through this journey. Even when things change, he wouldn't immediately just leave my life. So it helped build some security. Yeah. Learning how to be in relationship with someone and work on the relationship issues instead of using food and body to manage how I feel about certain things.
Amen. Yeah.
And recently, actually, this is reminding me, recently we got into an argument, or things were not feeling good. And I noticed that I had a thought about how ugly I looked, or I noticed that I was having a really negative dialogue about my body. I think it was one or two sort of fleeting thoughts. And it happened, I was able to catch it. I think because of obviously all the work that I've done, and I'm in such a good place with my body now, I was able to catch that and think, wow, that old pattern is just kind of showing up again. When I feel bad, or when I feel disconnected or not seen or misunderstood, I turn to my body to find something wrong and to fix it. And it's to the point I'm so grateful for, this work, because I could notice it, but not feel any emotional valence attached to it. It was just a thought. And I was like, oh, look at that connection showing up. And then I just kind of let it go and just focused on what I needed to do, which was to, repair the relationship rupture, or, talk to my husband about how I was feeling. But it was just so interesting how our brain works. Those connections could still be there loosely in the future after, doing a lot of work. But it's really about just noticing it and changing how you respond to it.
How quickly those associations can happen, how quickly that old pattern can come up. It's amazing, isn't it? And if we're not super aware of the pattern, if we're not noticing where those things are coming from, then it can be so easy just to immediately buy in and go, you know what? Yeah, how I look is the problem. I should do that. I should do something about that, immediately. But when we have this awareness of something I ask my clients a lot is what opened the door for this? When someone comes in who maybe, they've been managing things well, they haven't had any kind of emotional flooding around the concept of weight loss or anything like that for a while, and they're just, taking good care of themselves, doing good things, and then suddenly there is this real, I can only describe it as emotional flooding around the concept of weight loss and body image and everything. It's I get it. That's a really hard thing to be experiencing. I'm with you. Also, what might have opened the door for this? Because that narrative, that's not what's been going on recently. This is what let this in. I love what you said as well about your relationship, because it really spoke to my experience of my relationship too, how there's this kind of duality where we need to come correct with developing relational skills and the ability to regulate through the emotional challenges of being even in the healthiest relationship, but how also when that is done, the relationship can be an amazing vehicle for corrective experiences that really help us to gain a sense that things can be different. I know you and I have talked a lot about opposite action, it's something that we have a lot of crossover with, and how it's important to, sometimes you're just going to need to take the action. You're not going to feel different immediately. You might even still feel a plethora of very, very challenging emotions, but we take the opposite action, and that leads to the different experiences that then over time create new feelings, different belief, et cetera, and how a relationship, we can't just look for someone and go, I'm looking for someone to just give me a completely different experience of life and fix me, because obviously that doesn't that doesn't work out. But if we build relational skills, then I know that my marriage has been the most transformative and important experience of my whole life. My relationship with my wife, our marriage, this journey through building the skills to have a good marriage and have a great relationship, always still practicing those skills, always keeping it going is an ongoing thing. But then it's the first time in my life where I've experienced love that is not that doesn't hinge on, you know, how you look, what you like. I'm stumbling over my words right now because there have been so many times when I've felt mixed up about myself, or I've been unsure about something, or I've been in a rough place and just doing my best to show up in ways that I can be proud of. And my wife hasn't loved me any less. Like, she hasn't approved of me any less. And my experiences as a kid were that approval is conditional. You look a certain way and you do a certain thing a certain way, and you be this person. And if you tick those boxes, we approve of you. Not that my parents were bad people. Like, they're great. I love my parents, as a lot of people who say this say. But yeah, there was a lot of that kind of conditional acceptance. This is how we look and this is how we act. And if you're not doing those things, then we don't approve, which very quickly becomes, I'm unsafe because my family, my core group don't approve of me. I'm alone, I'm unsafe, which spirals into all these different things. But the relationship with my wife, I don't need to be perfect in order to be loved and encouraged. Like, she'll be honest with me if I'm telling myself misleading stories. Like, if I'm telling myself like self-limiting stories or something like that, or if I'm spiraling, or if I'm causing my own problem, my wife, who's Eastern European, will be like, hey, look, come on. Like, she'll be like pretty straight up about it, but always with love. And that has been a really transformational experience.
Yeah, it's almost like she has shown you the compassion that you always needed. And sometimes people confuse compassion with coddling.
Yes.
But it's not, right? It's about her being able to say, listen, Marcus, like, I'm not quite sure if what you're thinking about is accurate. And, you know, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Right? It's like radical honesty without the shame or the criticism. So I love that. And then, and that's, yeah, really what I experienced in my marriage as well. It's like the person that you're with being able to show you compassion, and then have you start to practice that compassion with yourself. Like, I remember one time, this was like after COVID, and there were a lot of like changes happening, and I was really committed to healing my relationship with food. And even though I saw my body changing, like, I just, going back wasn't negotiable. And so I just kind of felt stuck. And I remember having all these thoughts and feelings of like, wait, I don't like myself. And it sounds so, I don't know how it sounds, but, you know, it felt obviously very vulnerable. But I remember just like crying, like saying that to my husband, like, I don't like me.
Oh, no.
And even though he didn't always know the right words to say, like, I can't remember what he said in that moment. I just know that he held that space for me and probably said some nice things, as he does. But it wasn't about what he said that mattered. It was like that feeling of, oh, I can relax, like, I can express myself, and this is a safe place. That's kind of like, you know, a lot of people throw the term around nervous system regulation, but it felt like in that moment, that's really what it was. It wasn't about the words he said or the emotions I was experiencing. It was like about my nervous system could finally relax, that here I was, my body was changing in a way that's more authentic to who I am, and he remained there.
Someone remaining there through different changes, it's not an experience that happens overnight or even over the course of a few months. But yeah, having that experience of someone kind of being there through different seasons and still loving you, still encouraging you. Yeah, it's really profound what that does. And I can't stress enough how much diligence and work on our end goes into facilitating that. Like, it's not like someone just shows up and gives you that. It's like, no, like it's I don't like to use the word work, but I can't think of another word. It's work that you want to do, but it's work to make that happen. And when you say about, you know, coming to your husband in that moment, I remember a time when I was really concerned about the way the wind was blowing with, you know, the nutrition space, and you know, how things can feel pretty precarious sometimes, and there's always a lot of toxic messages out there, and it's hard showing up as someone who genuinely wants to do good without playing on people's fears and insecurities and everything like that. Like, it's hard to be a voice of reason in that space because there's just so much noise. Mm-hmm. And I was concerned, and I was mentioning this to my wife. And again, in her amazing, like, I love what you said about compassion isn't coddling. That is my wife. You can put a picture of her above that statement. That's her. And she's like, I was saying that I was concerned about all this stuff. And she's like, oh, okay, well, you're in the middle. I'm like, what? She's like, well, you're in the middle of the story with this right now. You're not at the end bit yet. You're in the middle where everything's been kind of upturned and you're not knowing what you're going to do. And like, yeah, that's hard, but just know that where you're at right now, this isn't the end of that story. This is the middle. And it's normal that you're kind of stressed in the middle. So keep going. It's going to be all right. Like, you'll be fine. You'll figure it out. Don't commit yourself to believing that how things are right now is how things end. And I was like, okay. and then that was it. Like, and then she's like, cool, we done? Now we're going to get back to what, like.
That's gold. That's so gold. And I feel like that's so applicable to any middle. You know, I often talk about the messy middle of body image healing. So it's kind of like,
oh yeah.
You're in the middle and you're like, oh my God, I hate these changes. I hate my body. I'm going to hate my body forever. What's going to happen? And that is such a great way of putting it. Well, of course, you're in the middle. This isn't how the story ends. And you know what's so interesting about being in the middle is that it feels so overwhelming, right? Like when you're in the middle of a career challenge or transition, you know, you almost feel like, I have an example to describe this. Recently, like I feel the same way about work, right? Like Instagram used to be sort of my main platform to connect with other people. And it used to be so much fun.
Yeah, right.
Especially when things were a little easier. Like I was posting oatmeal bowls and sharing recipes, you know, it's like, it's all lighthearted. It's all fun and games. And then, you know, gosh darn, I decided to pursue my passion and started to share more about like healing and recovery and healing your relationship with food. And then, you know, the responsibility, I guess, of wanting to help others, it can be challenging because sometimes you're like, am I really being heard? Am I helping anyone? Like you just start to question yourself. And then, like you said, the space, there's so much conflicting information that it can just feel a little bit overbearing. So anyways, I decided to, have you ever heard of The Artist's Way?
No, but I would like to.
Yeah, I think you might be really interested in it, actually. It's a 12-week program. Like it's a book. And it is something that helps you work through your own fears and, you know, core beliefs and like your self view that's getting in the way of you being creative and like showing up and sharing your gifts and what you have to offer the world. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this book and I'm going to, you know, strip away all of my like insecurities or whatever hesitations that are causing me to sort of stay small or not show up in the way. And I'm going to re-spark my creativity. Like that's the point of the book. But then, you know, when you're already dealing with life overwhelm, work-life balance, marital stuff, like a new baby, that stuff feels overwhelming because you haven't yet like removed those barriers. So in other words, me working on my creative recovery, in other words, like finding my voice again, expressing myself, moving away like the fear of like, you know, is my work really meaningful? Like, where's it going to take me? Moving away that and just showing up and giving away like your passion, using your passion. Anyways, I know that work will spill out into every other area of my life because if I'm working on my mindset and I'm happy and I'm being creative and I'm sharing, that's how I will connect with others, not just in my work life, but like in my relationships, in my marriage, in my friendships with my baby. It all comes full circle. And yet I found myself procrastinating on, you know, like the homework that you do in that program, which, you know, there's one basic thing every day, every morning you wake up and you write 3 pages of, you know, when you are just like in a flow state and you're
stream of consciousness.
Stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
writing.
that's
So you wake up a little bit earlier than you normally would, get that in. And then there's like other reflection exercises and things that you do throughout the week. Each week has a different focus. But I found myself, prioritizing other things. Like, the first couple days went well. And I was like, this is so great. I already have so much clarity. And then the third day, Leo gets sick, or like he hasn't pooped in like 9 days and he's uncomfortable. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? So then I take him to the doctor and it's like, okay, so that day was missed. And then I'm like, okay, I only missed one day. I'll catch up tomorrow. And then other times I adapted and would do the homework, during his nap times, whatever. But then before you know it, 3 days goes by and I'm already like, okay, now I'm feeling at this and now I don't want to do it at all.
Yeah.
And when I know that if I prioritize this, I will have more capacity to care for Leo, to not take out my frustrations on my husband, to show up, with more energy at work. So the question is like, why do we not prioritize our recovery when it's going to help us have more capacity for things like the most important things in our life, but also for things like food and exercise, right? And I think it just kind of comes back to that high stress and that overwhelm. Yes. Like we're telling ourselves that if we can't do it perfectly, then it's not worth doing. Meanwhile, it doesn't have to be done perfectly. It just has to be done consistently. And then everything else will probably feel a lot lighter.
Yes. The narrative of urgency when it comes to stress, I think really trips us up here, because we know in theory that if I prioritize recovery, if I prioritize showing up for myself well, if I do all that, then the things that I'm currently struggling to do, they will feel easier because I will have more resources for myself. I'll be in a better place. But it's this narrative of emotional dysregulation and urgency in that moment that leads us to go, no, I need to do the urgent thing now. I need to do the thing that's right in front of me now because this feels like and that kind of hijacks us. And it's a really hard thing to work through, but probably, one of the most important things we could possibly learn to work through. Like, is this important, or is this just feeling urgent? Like, is this something that will actually, if I do this, is it going to take me an inch closer to where I want to be? Or am I just kind of spinning my wheels, following urgency and reactivity? And like, it takes a bit of a leap of faith to start practicing that sometimes, because I've spoken to plenty of people and worked with plenty of people over the years who've taken those steps and been much better for it. And I've spoken to plenty of people who are identifying still a bit too closely with the narrative of urgency and, the scary story, the emotional dysregulation, and just not quite clicking yet. And it's a really hard place to be. But I think the whole stress piece, as boring as this sounds and as clinical as this sounds, when we feel stress, when we can notice that we're experiencing the visceral felt symptoms that are associated with stress, we can all but guarantee our limbic system is coming more online and we're becoming more kind of like limbic system dominant. We are less centered in the part of our brain, in the part of our mind that can think clearly, frame things effectively, plan in detail, see nuance. And the more that happens, obviously, the less effective our action becomes. So when it comes to stress, I often tell people like that if we can see those signs of stress, those visceral experiences of stress and emotional dysregulation as a sign that, as convincing as the narratives and the thoughts might be, like this is a sign, unless you're being chased by a bear, to take an extra breath, to bring the clearer version of yourself back online before making any big decisions, before coming to any conclusions, and just slow it down for a second. And if I had to summarize the stress management work that I do with people in a couple of sentences, it would be that is to recognize the signs of stress as a sign to take steps to come back to equilibrium rather than buy in to what you might be thinking and feeling too closely in that moment. Again, unless you're being chased by a bear. Yeah. So
It's so key though. And it helps us in our relationship with food, with our body, and in relationships like our marriage. Because for example, if we are so like that need to lose weight or to have our body look a certain way feels so urgent, then it's hard to dive into that deeper work of, wait, why are you struggling with food in the first place? Like you need to make peace with food so that you can have a healthy relationship with food so that you can feel better in your body. But the bells of, no, I need to lose weight and then I can do the work. That's what it feels like. Or I think about sometimes, the pattern in my marriage was always like, okay, alarm bells, like something's wrong. I have to fix this now. Like I have to act on this now. We have to solve this argument right now. Whereas now it's like, oh, I'm noticing all the signs that I'm stressed or that usually my trigger is feeling disconnected. And instead of reacting right now, I need to take a step back, regulate a little bit, get clear on my thoughts, like maybe watch my emotions come down on the temperature scale, and then approach my husband in a way that's not going to be as defensive or react or get him defensive. Yeah, like that's how this work shows up in every area of our life. But that's also how, like you said, it's so hard. It's such a
it's really hard.
I'm still working on it. It's never perfect, but it's like that ongoing work that's meaningful.
Yes, I see this coming up in really significant ways with people's gym programs, with people's training programs. Like I've been a strength and conditioning enthusiast and coach forever. I don't call myself that anymore just because I deal mostly with food. But when people come to me, I do strength and conditioning programs. And I work with people with exercise, essentially eating disorder informed training and exercise. Really, it's what it would probably be called. And I noticed there is this narrative of people going into the gym and training or exercising until they, quote, feel like they've done enough. And it's like, oof, that is a really deep rabbit hole to fall down. And it can be really hard actually following a program that is written in accordance with strength and conditioning principles, sports science, all the research that's done. Like I can calculate training volume, intensity, all that kind of stuff, and program weeks and months in ahead, kind of like what you can predict that you'll need to be doing. But the thing is, some of those sessions, you'll be like, I don't feel like I've done enough. Like, well, good, because you're going to be back tomorrow. But like, that's not this is the whole thing of like, I don't feel like I've done enough. Okay, what emotion, like what feeling are you trying to resolve spending that extra time, ambiguous period of time? Like that is just a moving target, and it will always be a moving target. So taking these moments to kind of slow it down, whether it be marriage or food, body image, training, like any area, taking these moments to slow down and not making decisions based on feelings and narratives that might, not be serving us so well. It's hard, but that's the work, I guess.
Yeah. What is one way that helps you practice that pause? I think for me recently, like I said, I've taken up journaling again. So even if it's not the morning pages, it's part of that program. Like I will try to kind of put my thoughts out onto paper. So I think that's something that helps me practice that pause. Is there anything that helps you?
Remembering how badly things go when I don't. Like that's kind of it. Like,
that's a helpful boundary.
But I bring it back in my mind to a couple of really simple phrases. One of them being, your only job in this moment is to not do something that's going to make this harder than it needs to be. And when you were saying about your husband and feeling that urgency around, I want to fix this now, I want to do this now, I resonated with that so much, because when I feel a moment of disconnection with my wife or something, like I immediately feel I've got to resolve this, I've got to fix this. Like the other morning, we got our morning routines messed up, and I know cardinal sin, but I ended up being in the bathroom when she wanted to use the bathroom. And, morning routines, I apologized profusely. But in the moment, we were rushing around in the morning, and I could tell that she was really stressed. And when I realized that I'd gotten in her way, there was this part of me that was like, oh my God. Like, and anyone who's done like inner child work or any of that kind of like really like early kind of trauma type stuff, I could almost hear it as this voice, like this inside me going, oh my God, I've messed up so bad. I'm going to be in so much trouble. It was literally like the kind of emotion that I would feel as a child when I felt like I'd done something horrific and disappointed my parents or whatever. And I felt that, and my immediate reaction was like, I need to go and apologize immediately. I need to go and make this okay. I need to make sure she's okay. I need to make sure we're okay. I need to make sure I feel safe. But she was still rushing around trying to do her makeup before her first client and everything like that. And the adult part of me, like the wiser part of me, is like, if you pursue this right now and interrupt her now and hassle her right now, trying to resolve this in the name of fixing how you feel, then number one, you're just going to make things worse. And number two, you're not thinking about how she's been inconvenienced. You're thinking about trying to resolve the difficult thing that you're feeling. So take a seat, take a breath, tell that younger version of yourself, like, it's okay, I got you, we're safe, it's fine, trust me to handle this, and leave it alone. And through being able to pause with that against every impulse to go and interfere and solve and try and fix, the day went by. We both finished our work day. My wife came down from her office at the end of the day, totally fine. I said, hey, I'm so sorry I got in your way this morning. That was really dumb of me. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. It happens sometimes. It's fine. But if I had given in to like impulse and tried to fix and solve and interfere, like it would have made things so much worse. So yeah, it's a long way of saying I really resonated with what you said about that impulse to try and fix in the moment. It's often not the call.
Yeah, that urgency. Like you said, it goes back to that core belief of, if I mess up, I might lose like the care or the protection of the people who are keeping me alive. Like it feels urgent. And that's all tied to self-worth as well, because, when we're taken care of, that's what helps us feel worthy. And if something interrupts that, then it makes us feel like we're not worthy. But thank you so much for sharing your mental process of how you support yourself through those moments, because it's really, really hard. And I think that's where the inner critic comes in for a lot of us, instead of that compassionate piece of like, oh, this is just like a part of me that is scared right now. And how can I reassure that part of me? Usually the inner critic comes in and says, well, this is how you don't mess up again. This is how you stay safe, which is, a topic for a whole other episode. But thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure chatting with you. Where can listeners find you, Marcus? I know they're going to want to find more about you.
Well, thank you, Natalie. It's always awesome catching up with you, and I really enjoy our conversations. You can find me by searching Strong Not Starving on either YouTube or podcasts. And that's where you'll find me.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Marcus.